This video will focus on departures in sector 1W and 1E, where airspace deviation and climbing outside your airspace problems aren't bugs. If you're looking for help on the actual airspace bugs of the South Satellite Sector 1S, I am currently working on a video on that as well. It will cover how to work around the bugs and make the sector playable even with the annoying bugs. I'll put a link in the description down below in this video to that video once I've uploaded it. You own the airspace from surface up to 15,000 feet. Southwest 1945 is climbing through 7,000 feet. What happens next?
You need to hand off Southwest 1945. He is outside of your airspace.
We got dinged for not handing over the aircraft when it left our airspace. If this happens to you a lot, you're probably also getting dinged for climbing aircraft outside your airspace, right? Is it a bug? No. It's supposed to be this way. In order to better understand how to work the departure sector, let's first take a look at arrivals and satellite airports. So looking at these overlay maps here, you can see how the arrival sector A infringes on your surface to 15,000 feet here. You have, if you look at the northeastmost part, you have the airspace from 12,000 down to 7,000 and then stepping down towards 10,000 through 6,000. This stream is made for the arrival aircraft, and you don't really want to send your departures right through this stream if there are any airplanes in it. There are circumstances where you can borrow this airspace when it's not occupied by arrivals, but as a departure controller you should avoid using these parts. You're getting dinged because you're sending aircraft through someone else's airspace. Now we're looking at the satellite sectors. There are 3 of them in Kansas City, and all in all they take up pretty much of the airspace of the departure sector. So you really just own from surface to 15,000 if the specific place isn't owned by the arrival controllers or the satellite controllers, but making a map that doesn't say surface to 15,000 but rather exactly where you can have an aircraft on every single dot on the screen. It would be a terrible map. It would be overcomplicated. So it just states surface to 15,000, which is generally true, but with these exceptions. You should not be having aircraft in someone else's sector. So how do we accomplish this then? Let's take a look. Okay, looking at the west-headed departures, we need to stay clear of the south satellites, which is pretty easy. You just need to turn the aircraft in time. You don't really need to keep this map up on your display to avoid it. Just learn they shouldn't be that far south. So following the green line, we need to be below 10,000 or below 10,000 feet when we pass the arrival corridor, and on the other side just climb to the requested altitude. Following the red way, we can initiate the turn as soon as the aircraft is above the MVA and you're sure it's not going to create a conflict with any other departing aircraft. Then climb it to 6,000 and turn it underneath the arrival corridor, and once on the other side, climb it to the requested altitude, and you're all set. Now taking a look at the east departures, which is slightly more complicated. If you look to the first red ring to the left, it says that the arrival stream owns the airspace from 7,000 to 12,000 feet, but below that the airspace of the satellite airport occupies surface to 4,000. So this means that you can actually only have aircraft on 5,000 and on 6,000. And once we get out of the arrival stream, let's take a look at the next circle, which says that the satellite airspace is from surface to 5,000. So once we get out of the first part, we need to be 6,000 or above. So it really just leaves us with having a single aircraft on 6,000 feet if you want to go through the arrival stream without a fuss. You can take two aircraft at the same time, separated by 1,000 feet on 5,000 and 6,000, but then you need to resolve that conflict in some other way than altitude, so that you will both have them on 6,000 once you get out of the arrival stream and into the part where satellite occupies surface to 5,000 feet. If you instead follow the green line, you can climb your aircraft up to 10,000 feet to be below the arrival stream, and then you just need to be above above 6,000 or above to not come in conflict with the surface to 5,000 airspace on the other side of the arrival stream. So this leaves you with basically having aircraft all the way from 6,000 up to 10,000 underneath the arrival stream if you follow the green line. So that will be way easier. So you can take your first aircraft on the red road and any followers on the green road. And then once outside, you just climb them to the requested altitude and you're all set. Okay, we don't have time to go through everything in this sector, but let's take one more example. What I've highlighted in the red square here is kind of hard to see, but it says that satellite owns the airspace from surface to 5,000 and the arrival stream owns 6,000 to 10,000. This means we need to be above 10,000 because all of the airspace below it belongs to someone else. One way is following the green line, doing the same as for the west departures, climbing to 10,000, and then once out on the other side of the arrival stream, the first time you climb to at least 11,000 and make sure you've already hit that before you enter the arrival stream again in the north part. And climb it towards the requested altitude. Just make sure you're above 11,000. That's one way. You can do an kind of an east turn instead and go to St. Joseph. There are many ways. I'm just showing you what you need to look out for. Well, based on this, I think you can figure out how to depart aircraft to Keiko on your own, and also the south-headed departures. All of the examples I've shown you so far have been with a south flow. Let's look quickly at the map with a west flow, what the arrival stream looks like. You will see that it's tilted 90 degrees. And you need to figure everything out again for this flow. And then there's also a north flow. But using the same principles, you can work this out, looking at the maps, figuring out how to get airplanes where they want to go without infringing on other airspace. Apart from keeping away from the arrival stream, you may also ask for a permission to fly your airplanes through it. And this is how it's done.
Kansas City departure. Good morning, flagship 3744 is with you at 2,200 for 4,000.
Flagship 3744, radar contact, climb and maintain 6,000.
Up to 6,000, flagship 3744.
Flagship 3744, turn left heading 090.
Heading 090, flagship 3744.
We ask permission to fly our aircraft in someone else's airspace by typing the name of the sector and a star, in this case 1A star, and then clicking on the aircraft. The data tag of the aircraft now has a yellow part that says PO1A. This is short for point out. If and when the point out is accepted, PO will flash for a little bit and the E will turn yellow. You have just had the other controller agree to you having your airplane in his airspace. Flagship 3744, climb and maintain 15,000.
15,000, flagship 3744.
If we did not have an accepted point out, climbing into 15,000 would immediately get us dinged for climbing him outside of our airspace. But since we have agreed on it, it's all okay. It's better for fuel costs and environment if you climb your aircraft as soon as possible after departure. So it's really good practice to ask for the point out whenever you see that there are no arrivals in the arrival stream, or that there are arrivals but they aren't gonna come in conflict with your aircraft. Just make sure you're absolutely certain that your aircraft won't come in conflict with other aircraft in the arrival stream, since they are on another frequency than your aircraft. It will be really problematic trying to sort things out in the last minute, so before asking for point out, make sure you know what you're doing. Flagship 3744, proceed direct to Blue Seat, join the Lakes 8 departure.
Direct Blue Seat, join the Lakes 8 departure, Flagship 3744.
Once the aircraft is back in your airspace, click it and the E will turn white again. You don't need to have it on a point out when it's in your airspace. That concludes today's walkthrough of Kansas City departures. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I will do another walkthrough of how to handle the South Satellite Sector 1S, even though it is kinda bugged.